Dark clouds of war are closing in on Kupyansk. Within just 24 hours, the Russian army has broken through dangerously close to the city, raising the alarm that this vital stronghold could soon fall into enemy hands. The situation is no longer hypothetical or distant, it is unfolding in real time. Kupyansk, a cornerstone of Ukraine's defense in the northeast, is now under direct threat. Without immediate and decisive action, the consequences could be catastrophic, not only for the city itself, but for the entire region that depends on it for supply and defense. Recent weeks have brought moments of hope to Ukrainians watching the battlefield. Successful counterattacks pushed Russian forces back in several directions, and Ukrainian drones and artillery strikes cut deep into the enemy's rear supply hubs. Victories in the Pokrovsky direction, for example, demonstrated Ukraine's ability to disrupt Russian logistics and inflict heavy losses on manpower and equipment. But even as these triumphs were celebrated, another story was unfolding in silence, one of growing danger in Kharkiv Oblast. That danger has now reached a breaking point, centered on Kupyansk, where Russia is pressing forward with renewed ferocity. Kupyansk is far more than a city on a map. It is a logistical nerve center, the main hub feeding supplies, reinforcements, and coordination into Ukraine's northeastern front lines. Roads and railways intersect here, making it essential for both defending Ukrainian forces and broader strategic planning. If Kupyansk were to fall, entire defensive sectors could become isolated, leaving Ukrainian troops without resupply or reinforcement. The city is not just a tactical prize, it is a lifeline. And right now, that lifeline is at risk of being severed. The Russian strategy in this offensive has been brutally effective. It starts with small sabotage units, sometimes as few as 2 or 3 men, rarely more than 5. These groups infiltrate through tree lines, forests, and farmlands. They ambush Ukrainian soldiers, plant traps, and force defenders to reveal their positions. Once the ground is destabilized, Russia pushes in larger infantry forces, often riding motorcycles, all-terrain vehicles, and lightly armored carriers. This rapid mobility gives them the ability to strike fast and overwhelm local defenses before Ukrainian reinforcements can arrive. Yes, Ukraine counters these tactics with remarkable efficiency using FPV drones. Many Russian groups have been wiped out by drone strikes before they could reach their targets. But here lies the problem. Russia simply throws in more troops. The sheer weight of infantry is enough to continue pressing forward even after taking losses. And over the past day, this has allowed Russian units to push into the outskirts of Kupyansk itself. The danger is no longer theoretical. Russian forces are already inside the city limits. They have taken over private homes, farmsteads, and now the contested gray zone has crept into administrative areas as well. This is no longer an advance toward the city. This is fighting within it. The northern and northwestern outskirts of Kupyansk are now in Russian hands, and unless Ukraine responds with urgency, more of the city will be pulled into the gray zone. To understand the severity, consider the geography. The Oskil River divides Kupyansk, forming a natural barrier that has long been central to the battle for this region. Previously, Russia attempted to cross from the eastern side but was met with devastating ambushes. Entire battalions were shredded trying to move through villages like Sinkivka, where thousands of Russian soldiers were lost over the past 2 years. Yet despite these staggering losses, Russia persisted. This time, they found a weak point. By advancing through smaller settlements and carefully pushing along the forest lines, they created a bridgehead. Now they are moving deeper, and tragically, the bridge across the Oskil River, which Ukraine could have used to counterattack, was destroyed by Russian glide bomb strikes. Without that crossing, Ukrainian options are far more limited. Maps from military analysts show the reality starkly. Russian troops have advanced at least 4 kilometers in just 1 day, a staggering pace in this grinding war. The gray area on the map is spreading rapidly, now touching administrative buildings and threatening the central infrastructure of the city itself. Kupyansk, once thought stable, is slipping into crisis. And the stakes could not be higher. If Ukraine loses control of Kupyansk, the entire corridor stretching from the city down to Kyiv-Sharivka could fall under Russian control. That would mean the collapse of supply routes not just for local units, but for large parts of Ukraine's northeastern defense. Without Kupyansk, there is no viable way to sustain troops in this area. A collapse here could ripple outward, creating vulnerabilities that Russia could exploit on multiple fronts. Ukrainian commanders are well aware of the danger, and as in previous emergencies, they may have to deploy their so-called fire brigades. These are highly mobile, elite units tasked with stopping breakthroughs before they spiral out of control. In earlier crises, such as Russian assaults near Bakhmut and Avdiivka, these emergency response forces arrived in time to stabilize the line. But the question now is whether Ukraine still has enough of these units left. After 3.5 years of relentless fighting, losses have been heavy on both sides, and even Ukraine's most capable soldiers have suffered significant casualties. Deploying a fire brigade to Kupyansk could stop this Russian advance, but it would stretch resources dangerously thin elsewhere. Amid this darkness, there are glimmers of resilience. Ukrainian drone operators continue to inflict heavy losses on Russian troops, targeting those hiding in captured houses or moving along open fields. In some cases, coordinated strikes between drones and infantry have trapped Russian squads inside buildings, which were then destroyed with pinpoint accuracy. Videos confirm multiple such operations around Kupyansk, where entire groups of Russian soldiers were eliminated in single strikes. These actions slow Russia's momentum, but they cannot completely stop the flood without reinforcement. Beyond Kupyansk, the broader battlefield tells a story of relentless pressure. In the forests near Sabotage, Russian advances have also been reported, with Ukraine forced to pull back from certain areas. Meanwhile, deep state military maps confirm that Russia has entrenched itself not only around Kupyansk, but also near the village of Sinkivka and even close to Stepova Novoselivka. This coordinated pressure threatens to widen the front, making it even harder for Ukraine to concentrate forces. The danger does not stop in Kharkiv Oblast. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, Russian forces launched yet another assault near Kamyanska. Here, too, they attempted to cross into Ukrainian positions, even establishing a foothold near bridges and local houses. Ukrainian air power responded swiftly. Reports suggest that MiG-29 jets delivered glide bomb strikes to destroy Russian positions. The result was devastating for Russian troops caught in exposed fields. Still, the fact that Russia managed to push into these gray zones at all demonstrates how determined they are to find weak points. Terrain plays a major role in this part of the war. In Zaporizhzhia, the land is open and flat, with few tree lines for cover. This leaves Russian forces exposed to drones and artillery. Their assaults here may be bold, but they are also costly and unlikely to succeed against Ukraine's fortified lines. Still, Russia is gambling on overwhelming Ukraine through sheer numbers, accepting heavy losses if it means even small gains. Perhaps the most alarming element of Russia's recent operations is the use of thermobaric weapons, such as the TOS-1 system. These vacuum bombs can obliterate entire trench lines and bunkers in a single blast. They are devastating in close combat, but limited by range and vulnerability to drones. Ukrainian operators have successfully targeted and destroyed multiple TOS-1 launchers, but the threat remains. Every time these weapons appear on the battlefield, they remind the world of the sheer brutality of this war. Meanwhile, Ukrainian mechanized units continue to play a key role in both defense and evacuation missions. Footage has surfaced showing American-supplied Bradley vehicles advancing through contested areas, sometimes even under fire. Their heavy armor has proven capable of withstanding Russian hits, allowing them to evacuate wounded personnel or reinforce frontline troops. In one case, 2 Bradleys operated together near Dnipropetrovsk region, suggesting that Russia's pressure had extended further than expected. The presence of Ukrainian armor there highlights both the risks and the resilience of Ukraine's forces. Russian propaganda has attempted to exploit captured equipment, displaying abandoned vehicles like the American M113 armored personnel carrier with flags draped across them. But behind this theater lies a harsher truth. Russia's own supply chains are under immense strain. Ukrainian strikes on railways, warehouses, and fuel depots have created bottlenecks that Moscow cannot easily overcome. For every vehicle they parade, many more are lost or abandoned in the mud of Ukraine's front lines. Yet none of this overshadows the central reality. Kupyansk is in crisis. Russia's rapid advance of nearly 4 kilometers in just one day is one of the fastest gains they have achieved in months. If Ukrainian reinforcements do not arrive quickly, the city could be cut off and fall under occupation. The consequences would be devastating, not only militarily but psychologically, as the loss of such a critical hub would shake morale both on the battlefield and across Ukraine. This is why the call for emergency forces is urgent. The fire brigades must act again. Elite units must be mobilized to hold the line, to cut off Russian advances, and to prevent Kupyansk from falling. Time is not on Ukraine's side. Every hour that passes gives Russia more ground, more opportunities to entrench, and more leverage over the region. The war in Ukraine has always been defined by moments of crisis and response. Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Kherson each became symbols of resilience when Ukrainian forces refused to surrender. Now, Kupyansk stands at that same crossroads. The question is whether it will be saved by decisive action or lost to hesitation.